Cool, 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 cool. And we are live. Steve. Bro, we've been talking about trying to make this happen for a long time. And now we're going to get you, onto this platform a lot more. Make sure that people can get your takes, hear your voice, hear all of the in-depth studies and, details on all of these prospects. I appreciate the work that you're doing. To the people out there, we got Steve in here, like I said, to cover all things draft. It's my first year on the beat as it relates to really being at every home game that I can be. Save, Friday nights. Don't do from sunset Friday night to Saturday sunset just for Sabbath observance. But everything else, 24/7, as much as we can do it, we hitting the ground trying to get it going. And with the focus on the Pistons that I've had this year, I've had to bring in other people to help to satiate a lot of this coverage, and they are great at what they do. I'm talking about, y'all already know, Sean Murphy. Y'all already know. And you guys are familiar with some of our Table Talk crew. I know you guys already know Mr. Jeffrey Iyer-Freddy, a.k.a. Mr. Everything. I know that you guys are familiar with Rod Beard of the Detroit News. Shout out to the Woodward Pistons podcast crew. Among others, our Table Talk crew, Carl Collins, Go Blue Lexi, some of the people that helped, really launch this thing like Downtown Deuce and King and others. And shout out to Speakeasy. I always say shout out to Easy Man. He got the start here. But now we're kind of ushering into a new phase of things with our Pistons coverage. And shout out to Aaron for being here. Yes, it is going to be more of a marathon. We're going to try and fill in those spots a little bit more on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays between the main Woodward shows. With some more Pistons coverage and more in-depth coverage, bringing in more specialists, bringing in more people with different viewpoints and everything so that we can make sure the coverage is balanced and make sure that it's hitting all of the points. So, Steve, welcome, bro. Welcome. You guys see his whole Star Wars vibe over here, man? I love this.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working on this for a while. I had Joe on the phone trying to get hold of you, but I don't know. He's trying to call over to Serbia to see if he can return something.
Hey, Tayshaun said, what up?
What up, though, Tayshaun? Joe said he's going to call you back right after he gets off the phone with Chauncey and Rip. So.
When does he get off that phone, Tayshaun? Is he ever getting off of it? No. He said, no, it's not. Sheesh. But hey, man, look. Where do you want to start? Because I value your mind. I value, everything that you were saying about Benedict Mathurin. It's looking like it was true, man. A lot of these prospects that you were talking about, including, one closer home, Jalen Duren. And you've been talking about since Pistons have drafted him, what he can provide, what he can do. As soon as he gets into the starting lineup, what he will, obviously produce. And he's been doing that. So, hey, take it away.
So we're starting right at the tippy top of this NBA draft class 2023, the prize that everybody is running for. The tank commanders are all trying to fire away for Victor Wembanyama, 7'4", 230-pound alien. I don't even know that you want to give him a position anymore. Obviously, he's going to play center or power forward to start off. People are starting to say maybe this is somebody that can play the three as well. The first thing people noticed about him was just shot blocker instincts and the ability to shoot the three. That was what the profile was to start in the preseason and maybe even like 2 years ago. And then he grew and got taller and bigger. And he was on Asvel this past season. He was kind of stuck down in the bench, kind of came off the bench, didn't really play a ton of minutes. If anybody out there knows anything about European ball, if you're a young guy, you're not getting minutes. The only way you get minutes over in Europe is if you are contributing to winning and you are consistent. So Wembanyama didn't get much minutes at Asvel. Met with this camp, readjusted everything, and transferred over to Metropolitans 92, where they essentially built the whole team around him and let him be the primary guy. And now he's putting up over 20 points per game. The shooting isn't quite come around yet. I'm not going to give splits or anything on this quite yet because I'll do that more when we do like individual prospects down the line or do like check-ins again. But the shooting still looks fine, the shooting form. He's pulling out these banana passes in the first couple games that people didn't really know he had. And then the shooting profile begins to expand more and more. The famous one now is the one-footed three-point floater Then he pulled up from three a couple times now in competition over in France at Metropolitans 92. He's the anchor of the defense. He can be a primary creator. I don't like using like all-time greats as comparisons, but people say KD. I've always said Ralph Sampson. Like this is the last time probably there was a prospect this tall that had all these different kinds of skills. Ralph Sampson wasn't as athletic as us either, but he did have shooting ability back then. I believe he was also like 7'4", 220 coming out of Virginia. And Yao Ming, probably the other one like that the last time, something like this. But Wembanyama is more mobile than both of those guys, able to go out on the perimeter. And why I say some people have said maybe this is somebody who can play the three because of that fluidity and his ability to be a perimeter guy on offense for sure, and maybe be more of a guy that can get out on the perimeter and defend on defense.
Is there any concern at all for you with his frame? Like I know with Chet Holmgren and coming into this year, there were people who they made notice to, is he going to make it in the NBA? With the physicality and everything. Is there any of that concern with Victor Wembanyama?
Only a little bit. If you go to SB Nation and look up Ricky O'Donnell did a fantastic breakdown of Wembanyama's injury history. There's an injury history, but it's nothing major or catastrophic. There's no like knee construction. There's not like a chronic foot issue or whatever. That would be the main thing that is going to be looked for as the offseason comes through. Anytime you have a player over 7 feet, their feet and their knees are going to be the focus of the analysis in the medical. Are their feet going to hold up? Are their knees going to hold up? Because as we've seen with Yao Ming, with the Ralph Sampson, it's partially why I use those guys as comps too. Their careers were derailed because of knee and because of foot injuries. They just didn't have as long of a career because of that, but still made a tremendous impact in the time that they have had there. Again, go look at Ricky O'Donnell's injury profile on Wembanyama. It pretty much started the season. Maybe it was back in like October, I want to say. But yeah, there's some injury concern, but I also don't think so. I'm always somebody of like on film. Show me 10 to 20 instances on film where he gets out muscled or outplayed, and for Wembanyama, you can't. I'm sure there's instances where like he'll get bumped or whatever, but nothing where his frame shows that he's a liability and he's able to use his long arms. I mean, has a purported 8-foot wingspan. I hope that holds up, and I hope that is legit. And
what?
Yeah, 8
That's
feet.
wild, bro.
Yeah. I mean, dude, just anybody, if you haven't seen film on him, go watch film. Every time you're like, oh, he's getting beat. And you're like, no, he's tired and he's waiting for this fool to pull up so he can just stand like a foot away and then block the shot.
That's so crazy. It's like, I know you hear these things and we kind of see him play, but it's like when you actually hear the measurement, like this guy is supposed to be this, it's just like, that's wild. It's insane. We've seen some pretty incredible prospects over the years. Like think about Giannis. Like that's just, it's an amazing aspect to a basketball player. Like I came up in an era where positions mattered. What your size was dictated where you're going to play. And I think that's what at least people from my age group and up are going to think from that era of Grant Hill Pistons and then the going to work Pistons. I think the whole aspect of stretch fours and all that was probably what the first foray into this kind of positionless basketball. And it's just amazing to see it happening now with the guards, like big guards. Remember when it was just Sean Livingston?
Yeah, I remember that too. It's like he's the only guard that was 6'7", and now it's like half the league is like that, right?
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing there, man.
I remember when Jason Kidd was considered a tall guard. Right now, everybody be like, "Oh, that guy's undersized, 6'4". Get out of here."
Yeah, he used to take guards down into the paint all the time. Like Chauncey, even at 6'3", 6'4", was able to kind of go down there and body people up. And that's not too long ago. I hope not. That's not too long ago. I'm gonna claim that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm gonna claim it, man. But it's man, Vic. I don't know. For some reason with Chet, when I was watching him and everything, I got a sense of maybe his frame won't make it in the NBA. But I just don't get that with Victor for some reason. I see him playing, including hearing, he's dealt with some injury, but this hasn't done anything to derail his career thus far. That's actually something that makes me a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah. Again, there'll be more medical stuff. He'll go through a bunch of different tests and things in the offseason. We'll see if anything holds up. But normally, if there was a concern, it would have come up by now, especially if there was a history of like one specific lower body injury. Then, yeah, it would have come up by this point.
Come on, QT. It wasn't that long ago, man. Tayshaun, it wasn't that long ago, right? Right. See? Y'all tripping. I agree with Tayshaun. Y'all tripping. Shout out QT though, man. Shout out everybody that's in here, man. Definitely. But so you said obviously Vic, Scoot. Who should the Pistons fans be familiarizing themselves with if the Pistons are not lucky enough to get one of those first two spots?
Well, if I could just stop there real quick, number 2 has to be Scoot. I know there are some rumblings about like Amen Thompson or somebody else at number 2, but Scoot has to be firmly in that position. I know the No Ceilings guys just did a mock draft, and I believe it was Tyler Rucker who ended up getting the Pistons at number 2, and his whole thing was like, Scoot, you just can't pass up the ability to play point at a high level, the ability to create your own shot, to run the team, to have supplementary skills for somebody like a Cade Cunningham. And this looks like a Derrick Rose with a jump shot type of point guard. You just can't pass up this type of talent. At the number 2 position, you'll take him and you'll figure it out with Ivy and the rest of the crew, because Scoot just is that good. Defense is really the only thing with Scoot, and it's hard because it's the G League. I always joke, the G League changed its name from the D League to the G League because there ain't no D in the G League anymore. You're not encouraged to play defense there, so it's not the best development situation in order to measure defense. So that's just going to be the one thing, and he's going to be limited to one position defensively at the point guard spot. I don't know what his wingspan is. He's listed at 6'2", 195. If he can, if he does have a longer wingspan and can guard twos, then that will help some as well. But you would want him with Cade to be the point guard defender as well. Just supremely gifted in every single. I always say he has the great point guard starter kit, in that he's above 45% for mid-range. He was shooting like 50% for mid-range to start out the season. Was shooting above 40% from 3. Last season, he shot like 17% from 3 in like 11 games or whatever. Yeah. And then just came out like gangbusters and said, yeah, look, I can shoot. If you want to be nitpicky about Scoot, he has really good athleticism to get up and dunk it and drive in the lane and penetrate with the handle, but he doesn't get to the line that often. Like under 2 free throw attempts per game, somewhere between 3. You want that to go up with somebody with that skill set. I think the nitpick of it is maybe just gets too in love with the mid-range. But with a point guard, that mid-range ability and the ability to just get your own shot off with your jump shot, the ability to get to the rack, the ability to dish out the rock, not even just to dish out the rock. He had the 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio last year as a 18-year-old kid playing in a professional league, in the 3rd or 4th best league in the world. You cannot underestimate that. That is incredibly rare. It's hard enough to play point guard as an adult in the G League, but as a kid that should be, going to prom and doing all these other things, again, rare find. Pistons take him at number 2, and they'll just figure it out with Ivy and Cade as they go along.
True that. And then, sorry. So now this is where the fun begins then, right? So if it's sick for Vic, you know what I'm saying? Or
scat for Scoot.
Yeah, bro. Shout out Rob Beer for that sick for Vic. I actually like that one. I think that's my favorite Victor, tanking slogan that I've heard so far, man. I like that one. Sick for Vic. It's a good way to go down, bro. If you're gonna have a bad season, at least you got some good guys at the top of this draft. Like, is this one of those drafts that's bleak? Are there guys right after that, those first 2? If the Pistons find themselves, which they probably more than likely will, picking after those first 2 slots, who is it that you're hoping these guys can have a shot at?
My hope is that Asar Thompson's 3-point shot continues to get better. I personally have Asar over Amen, just because I think he can fit in a bunch of different situations as better than his brother. His brother is more of a point guard, great athlete, great handle, really good passer at 6'7", like 198 pounds, Amen Thompson. Mm-hmm. But I don't really know what he does outside of driving and getting to the rim and passing. Both of the twins are fantastic defenders. That's the one thing that, even if the Pistons were like, hey, Amen's just somebody we can't pass up, and maybe that would be another one of like, the tax is too much. We'll just figure it out with Amen, with Ivy, with Cade, because Amen's big enough to roll over to the 3 and be that wing defender that so many people are clamoring for. He cannot shoot, like does not have a jump shot. It just looks super stiff. It's going to take a long time to turn it around. But if anybody listened to my Res Ball podcast, shameless plug here, episode number 2 was on the Thompson twins, and having the question, does shooting even matter? There's guys like DeJounte Murray, Pascal Siakam, and Jaylen Brown were the 3 in particular that I looked at when I dived into this, because these guys had under 35% from 3 in their final season before entering the NBA draft, and under 70% from the free throw line, and ended up being good NBA players. DeJounte Murray is the one, though, that like just never became a good 3-point shooter, but he's still a fantastic player. He did really well in that one playoff series that San Antonio had. Atlanta's not doing so hot, but maybe that has less to do with DeJounte Murray and more to do with Trae Young. But if Amen Thompson was like 6'7" DeJounte Murray, that would be fantastic. My hope is for Asar, though. Asar has been shooting very well, 35%, right around there from 3. It was odd too, because in the preseason he didn't hit a single 3-pointer, and he was putting them up, man. He put up more 3-pointers than his brother. Yeah. But I think that's a good thing too. I always look for people that have what I call the Giannis gene. And I mean, you could say Kobe, you could say Jordan, these other ones, but I say Giannis, because Giannis does not care if he's missing airballing free throws. He does not care if he looks funky when he's doing like mid-range and trying to add to his game in the games, because he knows that's the only way that he can get better, right? I'm going to try out these different positions. I'm going to try out these different skills. I don't care how I look. I just know this is part of the process. And I think that bared itself out with Amen in the preseason of like, he's like, I don't even care that I airball these or miss them. If I don't do this under live fire, I'm never going to get better at it. And he did lead the City Reapers in points, still scoring over 18 points per game. The free throw numbers still quite aren't there yet either. He was like 50, 60%. But he's also a really good cutter, underrated cutter, which, again, with Cade and Ivy, that's exactly the type of player you need, right? Somebody who's a developing shooter, somebody who has great athleticism to cut and get more lobs from Cade, who, like, we all know how much Cade loves the lob. And by the way, he also can be like a secondary, the third offensive option. And as a rookie, he would need to really be a primary guy. Ivy would be in his second year. Cade's still there, like Bojan might still be kicking around. Beef Stew and Duran are there. And Asar has one of the more underrated shots in the draft class too. Like, if any of y'all are Michigan fans out there and you remember Xavier Simpson had that running hook shot where it looked like he would just get kind of parallel to the basket. And you're like, what are you doing driving baseline, doing nothing? But he would put up that hook and it bounce out the backboard and go in. Like, if Asar continues to hone that sword, that's going to be indefensible with his size, 6'7", like over 200 pounds with the long arms. I just really like Asar because he has these skills that fit in perfectly for the Pistons, as well as having a really good upside. But I think there's 12 guys in contention for the number 3 overall pick. Most draft people out there say it's like 6 to 7 guys that are in the actual 100% race for the number 3 overall pick. And that just speaks to the talent of what comes after Vic and Scoot. There are a lot of guys in the lottery that have all-star type potential. The guys in the back half of my list anyway, like, I'll give away one. I think Taylor Hendricks is really super underrated. 6'9", 6'10", 210-pound forward out of UCF. Reminds me a little bit of Jeremy Grant in his ability to shoot and play defense really well. Everything would have to break right for him to jump up. Everything would have to break for him to jump up, but like, his talent is underrated. And when you look at somebody like a Brandon Miller, who is absolutely in that race for number 3 at the top for so many different people because of his shooting ability and because of maybe versatility, but Brandon Miller struggles so much inside the 2-point arc. There's really not too big a difference, I think, in my opinion, between Miller and Hendricks. They're probably like the opposite sides of the coin, whereas Miller's the offensive side and Hendricks is more the defensive side. So other names in that race for number 3 for me anyway, after Asar, is Cam Whitmore, Gigi Jackson, Nick Smith Jr., Keontae George, Amen Thompson, Derek Whitehead, Jarris Walker, Cason Wallace, Brandon Miller, Anthony Black, Taylor Hendricks. Those would be the guys that I think the Pistons should be focused on as the season wears on, because most of those guys do fill that athletic four, that wing, that most of the fan base, and even I'm sure internally, they're all clamoring for.
Yeah. Yep. This is going to be an interesting draft season because the Pistons have some unique holes that I don't think we even considered coming into the season. And it's great. I'm grateful that we have Troy Weaver because we know that he can turn a little bit of our assets, a few assets, into a whole lot very, very quickly. Man, first and foremost, I'm grateful for the education. I'm grateful for it all, like getting caught up on some of these guys. Obviously, you keep hearing Vic, you hear Scoot, you hear Whitmore, you hear some of the names maybe in the top 2 or 3. But to really get into this, and I can't wait till we start really doing some deep dives and such further down this draft as well, especially in the second round, because I believe this is a year just kind of looking around where I'm like, you know what, there's going to be some players in the second round too. So I can't wait until we get more into this. Oh, you got some questions, bro? I'm going to put this up first. I think, yeah, anybody got questions, put them up there. We got about another 10 minutes before I'm going to shut it down. I know the next Woodward Sports show is going to come on. So definitely go and check them out. WoodwardSports.com, Woodward Sports on all social platforms. But Steve, what are your thoughts on Whitmore?
Cam Whitmore should be in the top 5. I mean, he's got that kind of talent, more of a bully ball type of player, 6'7", like 232, 235 pounds. My main thing with him now is if you watched Villanova before he was came back, and now that he's in the lineup, they are a completely different animal. They look so much better because all these teams' defensive now have to account for the gravity that Cam Whitmore has as a driver. Still an emerging shooter. He's only shooting something like 25% from threes, but working his way back into it. Not much of a passer right now. He's averaging under 1 assist per game. But my defense for that, too, for anybody looking at it, is like this team has one shooter in Eric Dixon. They don't have anybody that's like a roll man. It's just a really bad year for Villanova. It's a tough watch, to be quite honest, where a lot of times they're like, hey, Eric Dixon, shoot a 3. You're like, hey, now Cam's back. Hey, Cam, like create some offense and do something for us. But he is exactly the guy that the Pistons would like at the 3. I kind of think he's more of a power forward, which might be the issue of like, is there overlap between him and Stu? If he could play, I think he's athletic enough to play the 3, but the perimeter shot is really going to be the determining factor. He's showing more and more he can be a primary guy, but I always am a little hesitant on guys whose shots are created by being stronger and bullying everybody else, because you just can't do that in the NBA. It's like Giannis, LeBron, and that's probably the end of the list, right? Embiid maybe, but the way that Embiid does it as a setter is so much different.
Yeah, you need some skill guys.
Yeah. So I'm not saying Cam isn't skilled, but the 3-point shot is still developing. I think just as like a basic straight line driver, and specifically for a Piston team with already 2 guards that will get you the ball in Cade and Ivy, and I'm sure Cam would be lining up in the corners for easy shots. Yeah, he has to be in play at number 3, I think, right now, even all the way to the season. There'd have to be like a catastrophic injury or something. Great defender too, multi-positional guy. Could even maybe be a small ball 5 if a team wanted to do that.
You said defense? They sound like that. Defense? Yeah. Right about now, because that's my thing. Before we wrap up, unless anybody else has some other questions, I'll definitely get them into the comments. I'm telling you all, Steve knows his stuff. He can give you breakdowns on these players. But I have the Detroit Pistons 3 biggest needs, and I know some of these we're gonna push into later content later of these little get-togethers. But scoring combo guard, an absolute gunner, whether he can play defense or not. So that I would liken that to like the Jamal Crawford role. Then a 3-and-D wing to battle the likes of Giannis, whether he's versatile offensively or not. I would rather this guy, if he's out there, to be like 6'9" or taller. I would want that Jeremy Grant defense back. I think that's a huge hole this year. We talked about that. We bantied that all summer. We talked about that on the Woodward Pistons podcast on the Table Talk. Are we underestimating the loss of Jeremy Grant? And I do think, in some regards where he would have been a ball stopper offensively, defensively, it's the exact size hole that we have. It's almost like, when you see the coyote running through the wall, you know what I'm saying? It's that size hole. It's just Jeremy Grant. So I'm hoping that there's somebody in this draft or in free agency that can fit that bill. But then third, one of those bruiser type center power forwards where they can stretch the floor or not. And I don't need any of these guys to start. I just need that DNA on my team. I need to know that those are the types of guys that can't steal, whether they start or not, go out there, get 20, 30. You can depend on them to potentially close the game as well. The same way they kind of look at Killian Hayes in terms of that type of guy. You can give him 20 to 30. You can depend on him to close. But again, just to quickly, a scoring combo guard, 3-and-D wing, bruiser center, power forward type. If you can answer to one of those, a prospect or even a free agent that you think, our eyes should be peeled to, who would it be? Like which position
It has to be 3-and-D wing. If Ivy is still there in the starting lineup and Bojan's still here and Sadiq still here, the missing thing is the defensive guy, right? The defensive guy that still complements everybody, maybe can get a shot in, which is why Cam Whitmore ought to be in play. Brendan Miller, I'm not really sold on his defense, but that's somebody there at 6'8", 6'9", can fill on the wing, might be more of a power forward, but we shall see. Definitely has perimeter skills to be a small forward. In free agency, I do think the draft pick has to be more towards somebody that is going to be small forward and more defensive minded, just because this free agent class is like Dylan Brooks and Lonnie Walker probably are like your best options if you wanted to sign a wing that has some defensive ability. I really like Lonnie Walker. He could definitely be like a spot starter, 6-man, but he's 6'5", so a little bit limited there. His shooting has really come around here for the Lakers. And Dylan Brooks, I wouldn't mind Dylan Brooks, but he's a chucker. I mean, he's been really inefficient, right? But
you don't need that right now. Yeah.
6'7", 220. You cannot, teach that. And he is a good defender, like really good defender. The Grizzlies really need him in the playoffs to do well because he is their only wing defender. Man. And beyond that, there's guys like Cam Johnson, who is more of a power forward, can't really defend that well man to man. So yeah, it seems like
they need their project probably in the draft then.
Yeah, with Thompson twins, Gigi Jackson, if you believe he can play small forward, Brandon Miller, Anthony Black, these types. So another 6'7" guy. These guys that automatically fill that hole at small forward and do have defensive potential.
Man, bro, I think that was a lot today.
Yeah,
and we'll save these other two because I do want to hear your prospects that you think fit, that absolute gunner. That's something that I have wanted for a long time. That guy that just comes in and it's instant buckets, like the flashes. What Bojan provides, the flashes of what Alec Burke gives us. But one of those young guys, our own homegrown.
Yeah, I know. I really, 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 really one of my favorite guys I've ever looked at is Bones Highland. That was the one guy I really wanted Troy Weaver to make an extra pick for that same year because he is that guy, the microwave scorer, and if you hear interviews with him, he talks about being a fan of like Bone Collector and the And1 guys, and you just see that in his game, right? I love that.
I like that. Well, look, we're about to shut it down. I am so thankful for everybody being here. Definitely hit the like button on the way out. Leave in the comment section at the live chats. Leave in the comment section. Who's your dream prospect? I don't know why the title got messed up. I was trying to put who's your dream prospect after Vic and Scoot. Let me know what you guys think. Please put it in the comments. Definitely. Also, we are planning some things, some get-togethers in the new year. I need to know and put this in the comment section too. And I'm going to start asking this a lot. Those of you, if we did a watch party at Imagine Theater in Royal Oak, we did this last year. It was awesome. But if we did this again this year, coming up in about 2 or 3 months, let me know who would come. We're going to have some of our personalities there. I'm going to definitely see if some of the Woodward Sports personalities can slide through as well and be able to have a good time there. So definitely let me know. We're going to have some giveaways. We're going to have some of our shirts. We're going to have some merch as well. And you'll be able to come and just rap with us. Some of the people that you've seen on this platform as well, from Sean to Steve to Jeff and others. So definitely thank you for rocking out with us. Steve, tell the people where they can find you and your work.
So my Twitter and Instagram is Borke Worldwide. The podcast that I run is Resball. You can find the Instagram and Twitter for that at Resball Pod. Then we go follow Resball, listen to that on anywhere you can get your podcast, Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those places. Just had an episode with Piston Mike looking at guards, and one guard's not named Scoot Henderson. And the episode before that was with Sean Murphy talking about our Detroit Pistons and like hoping with another season in the lottery.
Dope. All right, then, man. Look, appreciate you guys for rocking with us. We're gonna shut it down right now. Definitely go over to Woodward Sports. Check them out as well. You're gonna have a good time over there. It's always fun. But hey, thanks for rocking out with us, man. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe if you haven't already. We're gonna have a lot more content coming your way, a lot more live, so we can interact with you all, so we can get your questions, and so we can just rap, man. You know, it's a community, so let's build it. Let's rock. All right, till next time, y'all.